Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and it's time to get ready with summer stretchy bracelets. I'm going to show you how to make a helm weave today, and this helm weave is going to include square wire jump rings in the centers to give you just a little bit of extra sparkle and dimension. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to start this project, I have gone ahead and pre-opened my 18 gauge 5/32 SWG jump rings, and these are a lime green. I have gone ahead and pre-closed my 18 gauge and 1/4 inch square wire jump rings. So I'll just show you that these are square. These square wire jump rings pretty much match what a 16 gauge 1/4 inch jump ring would be like. The harder edges take up a little bit more room and bring the aspect ratio down a little bit. So these would be comparable to that. And then I've got my 10.1 millimeter O-rings. So we have a 10 millimeter O-ring and a 10.1. The 10.1 is a bit skinnier, okay, and it has a little bit more room in the center, which is why it works so well for a helm weave. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take one of my pre-closed jump rings in the 18 gauge 5/32, and I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4 rubber O-rings. I'm going to close this jump ring. Okay, and I'm going to take a second jump ring. I'm going to pass through 1, 2, 3, 4 rubber O-rings again. So this jump ring's just going to sit parallel to the first one that I put into place. Okay, let's make sure to get a really good closure to this if possible. Okay, so now I have 4 rubber O-rings and 2 jump rings. So I'm going to take this square wire jump ring, and I'm just going to squeeze these two that are over on my right hand side, or if you're left-handed, it'll be on your left. And I'm going to pull this over top of these 2 jump rings that are now in the center. Okay, so I want to go through this part slightly slowly because beginners get a little bit confused as to this first step. So all you want to do, you notice I have a top row of O-rings and a bottom row of O-rings. So I'm going to take the top right and I'm going to fold that over to the left. Okay, so that there's only just this one O-ring over here. And then I'm going to take the bottom left, so you see I have 3 on this side now. I'm going to take the bottom left and just fold it over here to the right. Okay, so now I have a little sandwich, and this silver frost jump ring is in the center, and that's exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so now to start a new row, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take this square wire closed jump ring, and you know, once again we have a top row and a bottom row, and I'm just going to squeeze this one on the top right and pull this onto here, and it's just going to sit there for a minute while I start the next row. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 more jump rings and 2 more rubber O-rings. This is just like when we started. We're going to be connecting 4 O-rings together. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to pass around these 2. And then I'm going to add 2 new ones. I'll close my jump ring. Take another new jump ring. And I'm going to pass it around those same 4 rubber O-rings that I just passed around to start the new row. So we're just using 2 jump rings to add each new row of 2 O-rings. Okay, so see, this is our working part, and this is the new O-rings that we just added on. So now that I have that new row on, you remember we put on this little jump ring up here. So what I'm gonna basically do is, again, I have a bottom and a top to this. I'm gonna take the top O-ring on the right and I'm gonna swing it back towards the work, and I'm gonna squeeze it and start pulling this jump ring over top of it, okay? And then I'm just going to give this O-ring a little yank and see how that pulls that right down into place, okay? I'm gonna do this one more time. So we're gonna start another new row here. 2 jump rings, 2 O-rings. Before we start our row, we're gonna pick up our square 1/4 inch jump ring, slide it over the top O-ring of the work. Then I'm going to add the new row using these 2 jump rings. These are our smaller jump rings. So I passed through 2 and I picked up 2 new ones. Okay, get nice closures on that. And then once again, we've got a top row and a bottom row. I'm gonna take my top row, swing it over to the left, and then I'm gonna pull this jump ring over top of that rubber O-ring. Okay, and then it's gonna be sitting around the outside of the 2 jump rings that I just added. Okay, so you're gonna continue to do that until you get to the desired length that you want this to be. I'm gonna pause the video and then I'll be back to show you how to finish this up. Okay, so at this point I've gotten my piece to the length that I need it to be. So the size chart is in the tutorial. All you have left is just 1 of the square wire jump rings and 2 of the 18 gauge 5/32 inch jump rings. So basically we know that this is gonna have to get sandwiched in between the start and the finish. And you can see why there's no more rubber O-rings to do this. So I'm gonna pick this up and sandwich it between the last row. Okay, and I'm gonna take my first jump ring, and what I need to do is I'm passing inside this square wire jump ring, and I'm gonna pass through the 2 rubber O-rings that are to the left. Okay, the 2 O-rings that are sandwiching that. Now I'm gonna bring the start around, okay, and I'm gonna pass through 1 of these rubber O-rings on the other side. But before I flip the other one over, I need to pass all the way into my jump ring to the other side. So you can see this is hooking behind the jump ring, and then this one is gonna hook through in front of the jump ring, the square jump ring, okay? And then we're just gonna close. Turn this around. I'm not liking the angle this is closing at, so I'm going to turn around my jump ring so that I can get it slightly twisted in the right direction where I want it. Okay, so you can see that's 1, and then the second one we're going to kind of do the same thing, but I just want to point out this is the one time when you may want to open this jump ring just a hair more, not tons, but a hair more, because it kind of has to. You'll see I'm going to go down through, and you see how this is sitting inside here, so it can get hooked on to the rings that are there because we're just feeding it through. And then this is the part where it would get hooked because it has to go around this O-ring, and you see it's kind of edging up on this square jump ring. Okay, and then I'm basically pulling this square jump ring just slightly up so that it can get through the center of it and come back out the other side. Okay, and I'm going to turn this around so that this jump ring is easy to grab with my dominant hand in between the 2 rings, and then I'll bring my second pair of pliers in and get this closed. Okay, and now we have a completed stretch bracelet. all ready to wear. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this project. This is just one version of Helm Weave. I like to show my Helm Weaves individually, being that I'm a mixed media chainmail artist. It's not as easy as just showing you, here's the aspect ratio and here's the sizes that this would be done in a large, medium, and small. In this version, I have metal in the centers, whereas in other versions, I might have rubber in the centers. And of course, with whatever size O-rings I work with, they are not made to be perfect ARs. They're made to be a little bit thicker so that they're sturdier and they're gonna last you a little bit longer. So they tend to be a little bit thicker than the jump rings that I use in any particular project, okay? So I hope you love this project and make lots and lots of these. And please be sure to like and follow us on YouTube, and I hope to see you for another video in the near future. Thanks so much.